Welcome to Not Ready for the Farm as we explore the journey of aging.
Today we've got a lively, offbeat discussion with Hunter Beattie, founder of Endswell Funeral Home, discussing modern funeral choices. I'm your host, Judy Miller, along with my sidekick, Jess Anderson, where today we're all getting an introduction to various and unique ways to be buried. That's right, buried, or smoked, or dissolved in water. Hunter, with his wife Veronica, is working to reimagine funeral care, making it more personal, sustainable, and supportive of the living. Personally, this entire subject gives me the willies. You don't want to miss this.
We are excited to welcome a very special guest today, Hunter Beattie of the Endswell, a modern funeral home right here in the county, in Orange County, Hillsborough. Hunter, welcome to Not Ready for the Farm. We're really thrilled to have you. And I love what you're doing out there, your whole philosophy, and we'll get into that. And so tell me, you started in 2022. You built this place. Tell us the origination story, how you got an idea to become a funeral director at the ripe age of?
37 at the time.
Okay. Well, that's a very stark shift. Tell us, how did you get started?
Yeah, so in 12 years of marriage, Veronica and I have never discussed going into the funeral industry. Our background was in nonprofit work and renewable energy. We were working at a local nonprofit when we got married. And then in January 2022, I was sitting next to a cemetery in Carborough and just killing time, 2 hours waiting on a friend. I pull up the news. I read that Desmond Tutu chose aquamation after he died in South Africa. So I read this article about aquamation. I'd never heard about it before. I'd never heard about natural burial, green burial, but I'm sitting next to the cemetery, and coincidentally, there is someone being buried 100 yards away. They have a shiny pink metal casket. I'm sure they had been embalmed, so preserved with formaldehyde. And they're about to be lowered into a concrete vault in the middle of town, surrounded by residential housing in the midst of an affordable housing crisis. So all of the articles about Desmond Tutu's decision, they highlighted that this funeral industry can be predatory, extractive, expensive, bad for the environment, and unsustainable. I drove home, told Veronica all about it. She thought that I was just crazy and it was another wacky idea. It wouldn't come to fruition. 2 weeks later, I put a $75,000 deposit on a $300,000 aquamation machine without a place to put it and no background in the industry.
Okay.
So
did Veronica know you were doing this?
Kind of, yeah. It took me 2 weeks to figure out that it would be legal for me to open because I wasn't licensed as a funeral director.
So what happened next? How'd you put it all together, the whole business?
Oh my gosh, 2022 was rough. It was a new level of hell that I did not know existed. To launch an aquamation facility with no background in the industry and run it by myself for an entire year. We put the deposit on the machine, we built the website, named the business, wrote all the content. I flew to Las Vegas, of all places, to train on how to use the aquamation machine. I'd never been.
Well, there's a lot of people dropping out of windows over there when they lose all their money. So you'll probably get some business.
Yeah.
So you were loitering outside of a cemetery.
Yep. Not intentionally, just waiting on a friend who lived nearby. And I read this article and I don't know, I think reading it, I intuited this was a way to get back into working with the community service, helping people, what we had been doing in the nonprofit world. I could battle the larger corporate-owned funeral homes, Dignity Services Corporation International, a publicly traded company. They own over 1,000 funeral homes. There are a lot of buyouts in this industry, and then a lot of standardization because it becomes a corporate funeral home. Even if they keep the family name, keep the About Us page with the first, second, and third generation funeral directors on there, it's a corporate-owned funeral home.
But you're a crazy man now with a machine that you've now financed and used a lot of cash. Where'd you take it and what you do next?
Yeah, so we lucked into buying a building in Hillsborough. We owner financed with someone for 3 years. It was a former dentist office. We had to paint over Minions and Disney princesses, pediatric dentist office. So I knocked down probably 8, 9, 10 walls and renovated it myself with a group of people. We curated an urn gallery. We were looking on the websites of other funeral homes, and we saw, the dolphins kissing and the angel's wings and doves and the American eagle on the flag for the veteran made in China.
So I saw pictures of your urn. When you go in your lobby, there's a whole bunch of urns. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, so they're all made by North Carolina artists. We have 300 urns made of felt. Martha Danick here in Pittsburgh hand paints gourds. And we approached most of these artists and just said, would you make 8 to 10 urns for us? So we curated this beautiful gallery. We have real plants, not plastic plants. And then, no maroon carpet, no floral wallpaper, heavy drapes, no Reader's Digest on the church pew. Very modern.
You've expanded, obviously, from carrying around the machine, putting in a dentist's office, painting over the walls, and come on in and let's gas you, to a whole menu of services. I can't stand talking about this. This whole subject of death. I'm not ready for the farm, okay? And the farm for me doesn't mean death. It means retirement. I can't imagine. But I'm not interested in much death either. So it's right up there with retirement. But your values, your transparency, your personalization, and environmental consciousness are very impressive. It's very unique. Are there others around the country also with this intention?
Maybe a handful. This is a very antiquated, anachronistic industry, very resistant to change. You have funeral directors just wearing ill-fitting suits in a very traditional environment, pushing embalming, even though embalming is not necessary 95% of the time, selling these garish caskets, all of this grandeur and pomp and circumstance of the funeral. We just have a very different approach. We're, embracing environmental consciousness, affordability. We have an affordability fund. So all of the gold teeth, $40,000 a year from the gold teeth that we capture and recycle after the process, that goes into an affordability fund. Nice. So we can offset the cost of our services for people who can't afford to work with us, or aquamation, which we'll get into momentarily. It is a gentler process, and a lot of the hospitals now are recommending us for infant or fetal loss because we can return ashes when fire cremation can't. So we try to do those services for free, and we pull from the affordability fund, which is funded by people's gold teeth.
This is really interesting. So if you gotta face death, do it with laughter, do it with beautiful urns from artists, and you can throw yourself in the ground and just say, kick the dirt over me, just in case somebody's asking. What do you pick? I think just throw me in there. Maybe when the zombies come back, I'll rise, okay?
You got to plan ahead.
Tell me about embalming. Why is it not necessary?
Well, first of all, so embalming really rose to prominence in the United States after the Civil War. So Union soldiers were dying in the South. The railroads refused to transport their bodies up north because they were breaking down. So we started using creosote, alcohol, turpentine, and arsenic. So we were preserving their bodies by draining the blood and replacing it with formaldehyde, then arsenic, and then their families up north could see them again. After the Civil War, it took off as a cultural practice. It was incorporated into Christian notions of bodily resurrection, sending the body to heaven intact. If you really loved Aunt Bessie or Uncle Bob, you spend more money, preserve them, make it look like they weren't really dead. But by its peak in the 1950s to 1980s, about 80% of all people who were buried in the United States were embalmed. Most people around the planet practice natural burial, green burial. That's what all of our ancestors in the US practiced. They didn't call it green burial. This is before any awareness of anthropogenic climate change or single-use plastic bottles. This was just the most practical, affordable, option, you would bury in a community cemetery or on the family farm. You'd have a home funeral. They'd lay the body out in the parlor, on the dining room table. People would come and pay their respects and then carry the body down to the grave that was dug by hand. Very environmentally friendly. And we are seeing a reemergence of green burial and a decline of traditional burial. I mean, there are a lot of changes in this industry. We can discuss today the proliferation of high volume crematoriums.
Well, that doesn't sound real appealing.
But they have made
Grim.
death care more affordable than in the history of the modern funeral industry. You know, embalming and the requirement that there are people who understand the arterial network of the human body, have access to arsenic or formaldehyde, that is what created the modern funeral industry, embalming. Prior to that, death care was led by family members and community members. But so death care costs rose with the funeral industry. In the 1950s, the average funeral and burial cost around $500-600. Now it's about $9,000. Sounds like a huge jump, but when you punch $500-600 into an inflation calculator, track it over 75 years, you get about $8,000 or $9,000. But now we have high volume crematoriums that cremate 200 people a month, and you can get a cremation in the Triangle for $1,200 to $1,500, all in, compared to a burial with a funeral in the Triangle that's going to be $10,000, $12,000, $15,000.
Okay, so let's go through a couple of things. First, I want to talk to you about all the methods of burying our loved ones, because if you're on this side, they're getting buried, you're still standing. Have you ever been to a funeral and you think, God, what will it be like when I'm there and people are standing here? I freak out. That's why I always cry at funerals. They think I'm sad, but I'm actually really upset. And, oh God, next time it could be me.
But isn't that usually, I think it's more than
We
you.
all think it, don't
Yeah.
we? That's what I'm saying. We got to admit.
I think that's a pretty normal reaction.
Well,
I think it's both, right?
But I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah.
You know,
You're coming clean.
You know, you're not nudging the person next to you. Boy, am I glad it's not me. Okay?
That is
no,
frowned
you say,
upon.
oh, poor Uncle so-and-so or whoever. Talk about, you started with the traditional method, which is embalming. So what does that cost? Somebody comes in, obviously caskets, you can get one at Costco.
Right.
Okay? And they
You can get a casket at Costco?
Yeah. Will you let them deliver it to you?
Oh, absolutely. A funeral home cannot prevent a family from providing their own casket, their own urn. The same urns that a funeral home sells for $400 or $500, they're buying for maybe $50 online. You can buy the same urn on Amazon or Etsy for $60 and have it sent to the funeral home.
You
and they
talk
have
in my
to
language.
use it.
I'm an Etsy girl.
And also with caskets, family can order their own casket, have it sent to the funeral home. They can save thousands of dollars.
Good to know.
I'm still stuck on the idea that Costco really does provide everything.
Not in store, but
They deliver it.
Fine,
Empty.
but still.
They deliver it empty for the most part. So it goes to Endswell. All right, a casket. They buy it from you. All the prices are listed. Comparatively to LA or New York, would you say the cost of caskets are less marked up here? Or compared to Raleigh versus you out at Endswell and Hillsborough, are they marked up higher than you?
I mean, there's so many different ways that funeral homes structure their pricing. But to your point earlier, overhead is a big deal. You have these funeral homes that have been in a community for 50 to 100 years. A lot of them are downtown. There's a funeral home in Durham. I won't name them, but they're great. Their real estate valuation is over $10 million. Yeah. They're near Duke's campus. They have to charge to meet the overhead expenses. So, we'll receive a call. Someone has died unexpectedly at Duke or UNC during a procedure. Maybe they're in town for this procedure and their loved ones live out of town. We have to communicate with them about the next steps. We have to start the death certificate. We have to coordinate a viewing service, talk about the options. A lot of people don't plan this in advance.
I see.
So, we have to guide the family through every step. They're dealing with grief, but then there are all of these practical considerations too. They don't know if someone wants traditional burial, green burial, aquamation, cremation, human composting. So we have to discuss all of those options and help them with their obituary and just guide them through this process. And that may be at 2 a.m.
Wow.
I've seen English television where pigs will just eat a body. Have you ever seen that? Yeah, television
That's-
shows. Yeah, I have some horrible where they just, fed a bad husband. The wife just, hey, he's in with the.
Is that a
gone.
service you offer?
Yeah.
No, but Veronica probably would have happily fed me to some pigs in 2022 as we were launching.
well, with that
Endswell,
box you were
dumping
carrying
her
around.
401k
Yeah.
and IRA.
You went
Yeah.
and bought a machine before you had a business.
Oh yeah, it was reckless. It was the most impulsive, reckless thing we've done. It worked out great. It's
Right.
the most meaningful thing we've ever done. We both run it together. We have a team of 7 people now. It's amazing, and we're building a sense of community around death and end-of-life planning and bringing people together for documentary screenings. It's great, but it was very hard in 2022.
Now, do you go out in that T-shirt? Are you the funeral director in that T-shirt? Because I like that T-shirt.
This is pretty much what I wear every day, an Endswell t-shirt.
So-
and then I have a sport coat
Okay.
in a closet, and if I look out the door and I see someone arriving to the funeral home and they have a sport coat and a tie on, sometimes I'll go and grab my sport coat, get the lint roller, and throw it on, and it works. But we're modern, we're different, we're not for everyone. We're not a traditional funeral home.
You wearing the T-shirt, they're good with that, right?
We dress like our clients dress. We don't, our clients come in after hiking Okanichi Mountain and they're in Hillsborough. They pull up in a Subaru Forester or Subaru Outback. They're practical, they're environmentally conscious, they're part of this community in Orange County, and they are environmentally conscious. They don't want the pomp and circumstance. They don't want the shiny casket. They don't want embalming. They want something affordable that's environmentally friendly. And they typically dress in jeans and a shirt or a hoodie. And that is often what we wear. But we have to be chameleons. We have to be able to accommodate anything. We offer repatriation. We just flew someone to the Congo to repatriate them to their home country.
Wow.
We flew someone else to Nicaragua. Endswell is launching Funeraria Carolina, a Latino funeral home, because of the segregation in this industry. You have the black funeral home and the white funeral home. It comes out of the black and white church, but in Chapel Hill Carrboro, you have Knotts and Jones that serve the black community, and you have Walkers that serves the quote-unquote white community. You have a little bit of crossover, but it is an incredibly segregated industry, and most funeral homes don't have services designed for the many, many Latino people who live in this community. Right. So we've designed services for them.
And with their cultural traditions.
Oh yeah, we'll serve champorada, the Mexican hot chocolate, at our funeral, customarily served at a funeral in Mexico. We'll serve that. We'll have a mariachi band, a food truck. It will be a much longer funeral than our other funerals, and we'll live stream the services back to El Salvador or Mexico or Guatemala.
Amazing.
So people there can see them.
So we've talked about the traditional. Talk about cremation.
We only do the aquamation on our property, and then we prepare people. We keep the people there cold, keeping the body cool, right? We have to do that at our funeral home. We work with another funeral home for the cremation. We just didn't want to have it at our building. It's a small, humble building, and we don't have the space for it. We don't do a lot of cremation. Most people, when they learn about aquamation, they switch.
So cremation is toxic to the environment, correct? Talk about that.
Yeah, so cremation was introduced in the late 1800s in the northeastern United States. It basically involves placing the body into a giant oven lined with fire brick. It's heated to 1800 degrees. It rapidly desiccates, combusts the part of the body that would otherwise break down after death, the soft tissue. This goes up through a chimney in the form of soot and various toxic and carcinogenic gases. So when people talk about cremation, they often mention the carbon footprint, 500 to 600 pounds of CO2. That's not a lot. That's just like driving to Washington, D.C. and back. The bigger offender environmentally is all of the toxic and carcinogenic gases, plus any implants in the body or our clothing. People wear a lot of plastic clothing, so we're also combusting these endocrine disrupting chemicals into the atmosphere, into the air that we breathe. So cremation was introduced late 1800s, met with great opposition. It interfered with Christian notions of bodily resurrection, desecration of the body. By 1950, the cremation rate in the US was only 3%. The Catholic Church lifted its ban in 1967. We're now at a 60-65% cremation rate. 60 to 65% of all people dying in the United States end up being cremated. It's projected to go to 80% by 2040. And that is because it is more affordable. It's more convenient. You don't have to organize a graveside service in the immediate aftermath of losing a child, a parent, a partner. You can coordinate a celebration of life months later. So that's one reason why cremation and aquamation will continue to rise, and fewer people will choose burial, especially traditional burial.
Talk to us about your trademark, which is aquamation.
Aquamation is foundational to everything we do, because what happened was, we all have this tendency to scrutinize something new and different more than the thing we think we're familiar with. So people were coming to Endswell and they're asking us all these questions about aquamation that they've never asked about embalming, never asked about cremation. People don't walk into the funeral home and say, what is the temperature in the crematorium? Does it smell? What happens to the blood when you drain it to replace it with formaldehyde during the embalming process? People don't ask those questions at a traditional funeral home, but people were asking us everything about aquamation because it's new and different. So we had to explain how it worked. What is this process of alkaline hydrolysis? How do we produce bone remains from this alkaline solution? So we decided we were going to embrace openness and honesty and talk about everything, no judgment. The decision of your method of disposition, what you choose, it's driven by personal, cultural, and religious preferences, by your value system. There is no right or wrong answer. The only thing I know for a fact is that preserving people with formaldehyde and putting them in the middle of town is unsustainable. All the other methods of disposition, conservation burial, burial at a conservation cemetery, cremation or aquamation, it just comes down to the carbon footprint. And we all have a massive carbon footprint. I drove here today from Chapel Hill. So this is all driven by personal, cultural, and religious preferences. The right answer is the one that's right for you and your family. There are some that are more environmentally friendly than others. So we talk about them all openly. We talk about psychedelics at end of life, about medical aid in dying, physician-assisted suicide. We do a lot of educational programming. The idea is to lift the veil and talk openly and honestly about something that most people are afraid to talk about. And aquamation is arguably why we do that.
Is it more expensive or less expensive than cremation versus traditional?
It tends to be a little more expensive because it's a newer technology and the equipment is more expensive. But there's a funeral home that offers aquamation in Oxford, Alabama, population 30,000. They don't tout the environmental benefits at all. They talk about how aquamation's like the baptism and fire cremation's like burning in hell. So their marketing is not towards the eco-conscious, Prius-driving, organic food-eating people in our community.
They know something we need to learn.
Yes.
I'm just saying, don't make fun of my people in Oxford, Alabama.
Well, you market to what people care about.
Totally. And we've had people come in to Endswell and say, we've had people choose aquamation because they're Pisces water signs, astrological signs. They're firefighters. They sailed around the world. Or because of the religious and cultural symbolism of water versus fire. But
it needs to have meaning for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell us what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So aquamation, alkaline hydrolysis is the chemical process, patented in 1888 and used in agriculture, adopted at the University of Florida in 1995.
Go Gators. I'm a double Gator. College, law school, go Gators. Okay. Proceed.
Are you okay now?
Just so excited he mentioned University of Florida. You want to see my mugs? I got them right back here.
Yeah.
Just go Gators.
Go Gators.
Okay.
So basically what is happening, rather than burning the body at 1800 degrees, we circulate a mild alkaline solution around the body. 95% water, 5% potassium hydroxide. It is a base, not an acid. The potassium hydroxide causes the hydrogen and oxygen to dissociate from a water molecule. They bind to the macromolecules of our body, the carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and they break them down into sugar, salts, amino acids, and peptides. This is very similar to how the body breaks down in the soil during natural burial. And what the family gets back is bone dust. There's a common misconception with fire cremation that you get ashes back. You don't get ashes from fire cremation. You get rigid pieces of bone after fire cremation that are actually hardened in the same way that you harden clay in a kiln. So what happens after cremation and aquamation? You have teeth, you have a piece of femur, of cranium, of scapula, recognizable as bone remains. By law, they have to be broken down into a powder or dust that we call ashes.
So Aunt Sally sitting on your credenza in a beautiful urn.
Yep.
It's really her bones, not her ashes.
Our bone structure is made of calcium phosphate, and you are getting bone dust calcium phosphate back with fire cremation or aquamation. Aunt Sally's bones were placed in a giant coffee grinder called a cremulator that processes the bones into a powder. This is not unique to aquamation. This is for fire cremation and aquamation.
So you could easily just grind up some dust, throw it in the urn, and make it easier on a delivery or having that done extra cost.
I was wondering when you were going to
Do you
go in this
know, it's
direction.
all
I
business.
literally knew
It's
you were
business.
doing it. Yeah, I know.
But
I know.
you don't really know that's Aunt Sally on the credenza, do you?
Well, we know at Endswell, and with the one advantage of aquamation is that there's no cross-contamination with other people's ashes. With fire cremation, they fire up the crematorium, they place someone in. It would be even worse for the environment if they were powering it off and letting it cool before they put another person in. They leave it on all day.
So you
And
don't
there's
know
a
who is
lot of
ashes you're putting out in the Mediterranean Sea off a yacht. She always wanted to be here. She always wanted to visit here. It could be
No, it's just
somebody
you
else.
have a couple
Yep.
other people that you're also
You're honoring the life of a couple other people
a
as
couple
well.
other people. They
and
just
hope
might
there's
be
a
mixed
little
in there.
Sally in there.
Yeah.
Maybe. So there are only 30 places in the United States that have aquamation, correct?
Yeah, maybe up to 40 now.
Okay.
Again, very, very anachronistic industry. Most people work with a funeral home because it's in their community. Uncle Bob, Aunt Sally worked with that particular funeral home. If a funeral home buys an aquamation machine, they're probably not going to get a lot of new customers. They're just going to compete with their own cremation business. There are going to be people who come to them who are going to work with them already because of their location, their reputation, and then they just switch to aquamation, and the funeral home makes a little extra money, but it doesn't justify the purchase of a $300,000 machine.
Yeah, there's
so it
something
doesn't
wrong
work
with
financially.
you. First of all, for being in this business, there's something totally wrong with you.
Or totally right.
Or
Veronica
totally right.
knows both. It's both. Both are true.
We actually
Okay.
just really need to talk to her, you know, like to get a little more insight into.
What I like about aquamation is that you offer it for pet services too.
Yes. Separate equipment.
Oh, it is?
Oh, yeah, totally.
A pet from a person.
Oh, yeah. We have a separate aquamation machine, separate business.
Another
all the equipment.
$300,000 machine?
100 for the pet machine.
Is it just smaller?
It's smaller.
Because there's small people and big dogs. So why couldn't you use? I'm not kidding. Well, you've touched on green burial or out in the field.
Yeah.
And tell me about that. That fascinates me. And so far, that may be how I want to go. Now, I don't think they have any Jewish cemeteries that you're out in the field, so I'm not sure I can do this.
Well, Judea Reform has a cemetery down Jones Ferry Road, and then there's some other Jewish cemeteries associated with a particular synagogue, and it's just natural burial there. So no embalming,
Really?
biodegradable caskets, and
Really?
then we have other nonprofits or organizations that have opened up natural burial grounds. Blue Stem Conservation Cemetery. It's one of 13 conservation cemeteries in the country. And basically they're marrying the principles of natural burial with land conservation. The land will never be developed. It's a beautiful nature preserve. You can be buried in the meadow or the woods. Blue stem is a native prairie grass.
Lovely.
And they'll clear invasive species and plant other native grasses. They'll attract pollinators. It is a gorgeous nature preserve in Orange County, northern Orange County, Cedar Grove, where you can be buried. And what I like about it as like a city boy, there's all this activity there. There are all these people who volunteer. Many of them have buried their own loved ones at Blue Stem, and then they come back and volunteer as part of the burial crew to help other people lower the body into the grave.
Are there a lot of these natural burial places around the country?
So most cemeteries require a concrete vault, right? Concrete vaults were introduced mostly to keep grave robbers out, as well as the 6-foot burial depth. That's just to keep grave robbers out. As it turns out, it also helps with cemetery management practices because the land, the ground is flat and you can start mowing over it the next day. With natural burial, if you're not using a vault, the ground will settle over time as the casket and the body break down and are given back to the earth. So most cemeteries require a concrete vault and therefore they don't allow natural burial. Westwood Cemetery in Carrboro released around 300 natural burial plots within the last 2 years. So there are more and more options, but it requires that the community come in and ask for it and say, this is what's meaningful for us.
A terrible thing, and we will cut this.
Sorry, but this was just too funny to cut, Judy.
But I'm going to say it anyway. So you go to, I'm going to be naturally buried, and they bury you up, but there'll be little mounds for me. But you understand, you know, they bury it not too
I wish
deep,
I had
shallow,
that problem more than
and
I
it
do.
would be like, oh, that must be Judy's. We're about to put the nameplate up.
Yeah.
It's a real problem.
It is. We have to, okay, we're serious. So they don't embalm, they don't put them in a casket, the body, they just like toss it in the field and do they shroud it?
Toss it in the field. It sounds like they're like throwing it out of a moving truck or something. Like,
No, I mean, you bury and you prayers and you do all, you know, all of this, everything you do, you know, you say something, but then you cover it with dirt. Is it deep?
About 3.5 feet deep, a bit shallower because the soil temperature is warmer and the goal is to give the body back to the earth. I mean, it's very simple. It's the original traditional burial. It's what almost all of our ancestors practiced in the U.S.
Exactly.
They weren't preserving the body with formaldehyde. They weren't using a non-biodegradable casket or a concrete vault. Uncle Bob, the cabinet maker, might build a casket, or the person can be shrouded in silk and cotton and wool or a family quilt and covered in wildflowers laid in the ground.
You can learn all about Hunter and Veronica on our website. All their services will be hyperlinked to them, whatever that means. And we hope you'll check it out in order to make a comparison for wherever you live, okay, and see what's available. And I'm sure Hunter might be able to give you some guidance. And the other thing when you go to our website is you can buy a Judy mug, or the Not Ready for the Farm mug, with a little slogan on the back that says, "Be grateful. If you aren't aging, you be dead." Okay, back to our programming. Hunter, thank you so much for joining us at Not Ready for the Farm. We'll see you next time. So what I wanted to share after Hunter was here and his incredible story about Endswell.
Yeah.
So years ago, I was in Gainesville, Florida, and I was
Is that when I say go Gators?
Go Gators.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
So I'm a young lawyer, and we're opening a little nightclub downtown, and I'm going to be one of the performers because I went on the road with a show group. So the show group had come off the road. I bought this nightclub, and we're going to open. So I got a hold of a guy named Charlie Chestnut who had the Black Funeral Home. He was a friend. And I got 6 young lawyers, friends of mine, to be my pallbearers. And I went over the day before and checked out the casket I wanted. And that night, the next night, I went over and got in the casket. And the 6 guys put me in the back of a hearse. And I'm there, and we're all laughing and talking. And I'm laying in the hearse. The thing is not latched.
This
it's
is
closed.
completely deranged.
It's a good story. Okay, so we go from Charlie Chestnut's funeral home down to Main Street.
And his real last name was Chestnut?
Yeah, Charlie
Okay.
Chestnut. Yeah, a really nice man. And I'm in the casket. Go and the side door goes right. They take and they bring it in, and the lead singer Jennifer is singing, and the band is playing. They really do the song well. So they come in and they place me down, and they go sit. And she's hot August night. I'm laying here, and I open the casket cover, and I peek my head out. And I am in purple streaming robes.
No.
And I get out.
No.
Yes, and I stand up and I start singing, love, sister, traveling show. How do you know? Everyone knows. And anyway, that was the bit. That was the whole bit. What did you find the most meaningful part of Hunter's discussion?
As much as the aquamation is really interesting to me, I think the reconnecting people to this natural process, to this piece of life that we're all really scared of, right?
The demystification of it.
Yeah.
Because I've never been to a funeral home where I had to make the plans for somebody.
Yeah.
I've always shown up at funerals or whatever, even close family members, other people made the choices. And now where I am, people are going to make the choices for me, or I make my own choices, or I may make a plan for somebody.
Yeah.
And it's all scary stuff, but this really takes it to an understandable level of what you've got to deal with. Nothing can deal with the grief.
No.
That's,
of course not.
And the sensitivity that is shown on a really genuine level.
Yeah. These are things that we do together in community, and they are part of our lives. Our deaths are all connected, and that it is not something we want. Certainly, it is not desirable. It is inevitable, and we're going to all do it together.
It is a reality. People, all of us are going to die. So dealing with realities in Not Ready for the Farm and through this journey of aging.
And now you're dragging me along.
I
into
know. Well, we got to
dealing with
grow
reality.
up. We have to grow up and be big
know,
girls with
I
big
know.
girl panties.
I
And
know.
realize, you got a couple kids, you got a
Yes.
husband, I got grands.
Right.
I can't take it. But the
I know.
reality is we're growing up.
We are.
And we're paying attention and we're addressing it.
Yeah. And
So-
hopefully other people have that same experience of being able to hear someone like Hunter be there, like that person, that type of place exists.
And these kids are in their 30s.
I know.
And they're teaching us great lessons. Well, thank you to our listeners. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Not Ready for the Farm. We'll see you down the road. Once again, we are proud to bring you our resident literary explorer, Alex Ritchie, with her very quirky takes and readings of antiquated children's literature and all things unimportant. Hi, Alex.
The little stay-up. Once there was a little girl who would not go to bed. Each night she got a scolding, this willful sleepyhead. She'd fall asleep right in her chair, which was a great mistake. Instead of feeling fine next day, she could not keep awake. And then, on the other hand, the willing practitioner. When Anne sits down to practice her music every day, she does it without urging. And once I heard her say, I think I should be quite ashamed if I should grow up tall and I were asked to play a piece and I couldn't play at all.
Well, everything is imperfect and definitely unimportant. So we appreciate you being with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Alex. We appreciate you joining us here at Not Ready for the Farm as we navigate the journey of aging. Please like and subscribe and visit our website at notreadyforthefarm.com. Find us wherever you stream your podcasts.